Africa's gift to its tribe. Homegrown radio. Ekaya. My home.
Sort of copied. Now they're moving into the innovative stage.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. So I'm going to challenge you guys to go and innovate something that we can go out there and sell and say, here's our product. This is our version. And yes, it was inspired by. In fact, in AI, the biggest honorary that is given in AI or in the blockchain technology is the copying of a product that has already been coded in.
You see,
that is, and that is not plagiarism in there. Because what it means is that somebody has put hours in there, and if somebody else can use it, it means that that is an honor. Welcome to it. Today on Learn Crypto Africa, I am joined by African technopreneurs Muzwe Bam from Mthatha in South Africa and Given Mahlangu from Kwaggafontein in Mpumalanga. Gentlemen, hello and welcome to Learn Crypto Africa.
Hey, pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
That is Muzwe.
Hi guys.
Bam, and we have Given Mahlangu. Sorry.
It's a mouthful. Sometimes.
No. I gotta get it right. Given Mahlangu. It's very important that we pronounce our names properly. Yeah. My name is Desiree, and I am your host for Learn Crypto. We speak emerging technology on our podcast. I'm excited to chat with you guys because there's a lot to chat about today.
Yeah, we're quite excited.
We're talking about emerging technology. When I spoke with you guys last week, you said, "Oh well, this is not emerging technology. This thing has been." I'm like, "Well, it's not emerging technology for you because you've been fidgeting with it for about at least 2 years."
Like
so if you asked me whether cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is emerging ideas, I would say no, it's old news, but it's new news to somebody who's only just getting into it. So let's get right into it. What is it that you guys do? Muzwe, just take us quickly through what is it that African Technopreneur does? Okay,
sure. African Technopreneurs is a startup company. We sell and distribute VR and AR hardware.
So, and what is VR and AR?
So VR being virtual reality, AR being augmented reality.
So what's the difference between the two?
So VR, you have to be immersed. So it's like you're closed off from the real world. And augmented reality is like a layer that is augmented on top of the real world.
Right.
So it's kind of like my glasses are, I would say, are augmenting my eyesight to be better, because it's a layer that's on top of the real world.
On top of your own vision, and it improves.
A good example is like the Snapchat filters, Instagram. That's an example of augmented reality. I think we use it a lot.
So it refines it. So would we say 3D glasses are augmented reality?
No, I would not say.
They don't fall in that category.
No, they don't. Yeah.
But glasses improve the eyesight, so that becomes.
Yeah, no. I was just using them as an illustration, but no, I wouldn't say glasses are augmented reality. No.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to understand from a layman's point of view. When you say virtual, we know now by saying virtual that virtual means that you can't touch and feel it, but you're in the space, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, how did you get into it? What is it that you do? What part do you play in this technology?
Okay. How I got into it is, I wouldn't say by accident, but it was through a gentleman called Dali Songoma, who recruited us at African Technopreneurs and kind of started teaching us about XR. And XR being extended reality.
Right.
So that is encompassment of, or umbrella title for VR, AR, and mixed reality.
Brilliant.
Yeah, all three.
And the funny thing is, Given I met you guys, I actually just literally bumped into you at the Telkom Future Makers Innovation Summit.
Oh, yes.
Was it October last year?
Yeah.
Yes, and you guys had the gadgets and you had your own booth or your pod, and you were taking people through short experiences with your headsets, the AR headsets. And I was just fascinated, and I thought, well, if this is a networking session, I really want to understand what the guys are doing, and so that we can perhaps have them on our podcast to further showcase what it is that they are doing. And I'm excited. I actually have a vision of taking this to a gaming world where there's a whole lot of youngsters and them seeing their games in virtual reality and experiencing the entire thing. But speaking with you, Given, earlier on, you mentioned something about how AR and VR can be an accessory within the NFT space. And you got my attention because in fact, already in 2021, we were talking about NFTs and how we can discuss and make and entice more young people to go into digital art creation and using NFTs and understanding that space. Please take us through how we can incorporate this technology into NFTs.
I think firstly, people need to understand how NFTs work, right? Essentially, it's just digital art.
Right.
And you create like art in different mediums and different formats. So there's people that have music NFTs, there's people that have pictures as NFTs, there's people that have parts of games like as NFTs, like game mods and stuff as NFTs, right? So it's very possible, and there are people that are doing that, to have AR as NFTs. There's
question: how does music NFT work?
So okay, so it's a where do I start?
Let's start off with there's platforms to kind of distribute your music. I think that's one part where everybody will
typically, right, a recording artist would have like a recording label maybe that does the distribution for them, or they would distribute their own music through different platforms, so the music is out there. But now as an artist, you could put your music on
platforms like Audible.
On like a specific platform, and then push it straight
so it's more
to
of
consumers.
the platform. So I'm also just in my head, I'm thinking music NFTs. I'm thinking where they auto tune, is you listen to the music in auto tune.
No.
Also think about like music rights. Music rights are a very important aspect to look at when you think about music being consumed via NFTs, because typically you would maybe make a song, and then depending on how you publish the song and the recording deal that you have with your recording label, the rights would be split like however, and the way like the rights that would be attached to the music would be dependent on you as an artist, on like, okay, maybe the publishing rights go like this, or this goes like that.
And the good thing about it is that within the NFTs, you can incorporate your smart contracts.
Exactly.
Right? As we know that the smart contracts are encrypted, there's APIs involved, and you cannot copy it. So if a use case would be to say that with being on a platform, a blockchain platform, because that's what it would be on, then download and capturing of that music that is not paid for, that unfair capturing of content that is not paid for will be eliminated. If that is a use case, that is a brilliant use case, being it being on the blockchain. So that would be a great thing for artists, as well as eliminating all these big players that require to come in and pay big monies, and then you take a small portion of your art. That would be a brilliant use case. Are we talking about that? Are we speaking that language?
To some point,
Do you
yes.
think?
I think largely as an artist, if you are just distributing, whether it be music or just general art, if you are putting your own art as you putting it out there,
you've already eliminated the middleman, right?
Exactly.
Eliminated so much that goes into like what happens between you, your art, and the consumer. So essentially.
So the only thing that keeps you back is how well you market your products on the system, as well as how well you refine your craft within that. So if we were talking about a Kabza or a Maphorisa back in 2016, and his work was already on the blockchain technology, he would not then need the big guys, the Sonys, the BMGs, and all of those guys to then take a portion of his distribution. All he would have to do is use big clout marketing, use the big boys that are already there, they sample his music, and Bob's his uncle.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying, right?
Essentially,
and that's a
yeah.
beautiful thing, because what we want out of blockchain technology, and the big use case for blockchain technology in the first place, when Satoshi Nakamoto put out that protocol in 2009, at the end of October 2009, I'll never forget that. That was the return of Christ. But anyway,
wow.
where the whole intention was to decentralize and give power to the people. So everything that we do within the blockchain space will always be embedded on that beautiful cause, which is power back to the people, or power to the people, because people have never really had the power.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do you think that Satoshi is Elon Musk?
I knew you were going to ask a question like that.
I had to ask the question.
I thought you were going to ask something different.
No, I'm interested in what you guys think.
I thought you were going to ask, do you
it is
think that
Elon Musk?
Satoshi is Jesus Christ, or the return of Christ?
I thought you were going to ask, is Satoshi Nakamoto one person? Because a lot of people say that.
A lot of people ask that question.
Yeah.
Look, without proof of anything, nobody can speculate as accurately as they would want to. I've got my own thing. I believe that
That's
it's
what
a
I'm
group of
interested in.
people,
Yeah.
and I believe that they're obviously based in the West, and I believe that there's a few individuals that know who Satoshi Nakamoto is.
Okay.
That's about it.
And then let me ask you, I have a question in regards to, you know a lot about like Bitcoin and, you know, decentralized stuff like that. I wanted to ask you, you know, earlier, I think last year, there was the issue where a lot of crypto firms went down. I think it was
FTX.
FTX,
Yes.
and then there was also the Tor.
Subsidiaries,
Yes.
and some,
And then there was a lot of hype around those companies being forced to close by big whales. You know, like in crypto, there's these guys who own big amounts of crypto, and they call those whales.
Yes.
And those big players are able to kind of, you know, not decentralize, but kind of break down your company or whatever. So what do you think about those? Is it truly decentralized if, you know, big owners or whales are able to come in and dictate, you know?
Yeah, look, it's blockchain is a movement. Bitcoin in itself is a political movement. It's a movement that came about retaliating against the 2008 financial breakdown, right, in the US. And it was there to say that we've given too much power to governments. Too much power, and therefore with that power they've abused the system so much that they've compromised us as the taxpayers, as the would-be beneficiaries of the monies that we put into the system. Therefore, how about if we then create a decentralized system that says that some of our money can be kept by us, stored by us, used in a way that we want to use it and when we want to use it. We should not only, investment should not only entail us placing our money in a huge system and then they deciding. So if you gave me 200 Rand, you gave me 200 Rand. And you said, keep this for us every month for a year or 10 years. And as a result, I don't give you any return on that each month. I give you maybe a 0.1%. And that's what you are taking back from your 200. But I take your 200 and I borrow people that money. And each month they give me anything from 10% to 23% return on that. I become the shock between us. I then expand and my wealth goes higher and higher. When you need to borrow that money back from you, I give it to you, but I charge you for it. But I'm using your money to create my wealth. This is about the lamest that I can put it.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things that have been happening with centralization. Centralization means that power is centered to an elite few. They decide how the money moves, when the money moves, and how much of the money is moving. And if I make that decision, I disposition you in terms of wealth and growth, in terms of what you can do with your money.
Yes.
Right? So we're in a partnership to be a so-called partnership because you've given me your money, but you get a very minimal share, if at all, of that partnership. So decentralization then aims to dispel that, to give some power to you. So if I have a full Bitcoin, what is the value of a Bitcoin right now? It's about 408,000 Rand, which is round about, what is that in US dollar? Between 23,000 US dollars, 23,000 US dollars. Now, if I have that asset and you can't touch my asset because you're not the bank and you can't tell me how to use it and when to use it and when to tax it and so on, I got power of that. Of course, there are certain risks. By the way, this is not financial advice. This is me talking about my experience and my observations around the crypto world. Of course, there are a lot of skeptics. And then we talk about the whales earlier on. We spoke about the whales. Those people that came in early, bought huge stocks of cryptocurrency. And therefore, remember, he who has the gold also has the word, right? They have a say. That's why the people that decide what happens with world economics and poverty and wealth and so on, it's because they have the wealth.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So when you have the wealth, then you are sort of by a social clause that none of us agreed on, a social clause, you then can have a say. So the whales then dictate how things are going to move. Now, none of that stuff is decentralized. Remember, anything that has a CEO and a building is not decentralized in the true word sense of what decentralization is. So that's why you find that Bitcoin is the only thing that can totally claim decentralization. There's no CEO. There is no building. You're not going to drive to a Bitcoin building, but you're going to drive to an ETH building. You're going to drive to Solana. You're going to drive to the wallets. You're going to drive to Binance and drive to Luno and to Yellowcard and all these wallets that are there. But there's no destination that this is Bitcoins. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that the only office that you're going to find around Bitcoin is the protocol, right? So that is a system that is truly decentralized is one that you can say, okay, today I'm taking my Bitcoin out, I'm putting it in a cold wallet, no one is touching it. However, having said that, there will always be a push against something that is as revolutionary as a currency like Bitcoin.
Yes.
Right? Or even blockchain, because by now, Buzwe and Given, we should be voting on the blockchain.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Why are we still using ballot papers when we have advanced so much that we can now just tick with what is it? The biometrics. Your eyes, your fingerprint, your facial recognition technology.
Voice even.
It's there.
Yeah.
Why aren't we voting on the blockchain?
It's just mass.
It's because it does not serve the elite few.
Yeah, for sure.
It will swing. So
guys,
the truth does not always work.
It's the truth. It will swing the tide. Think about it. If now everybody can vote autonomously, anonymously. So obviously now no one has like anything to lose.
No one has control over that vote anymore.
I think what you guys are saying would make sense if we lived in a different country that didn't have like the structures, you know, and what do I call?
No, we're not just talking about South Africa. We're talking about the world.
Worldwide.
The world has the technology.
The thing is, there's very few countries that have like standard of living for everyone that's the same, right? And I'll use SA as an example.
Okay.
We can implement that tech, but only a few people would be able to utilize the tech and implement it. It would be
as
implemented
long as
properly.
you have this gadget.
But how many people have those kind of gadgets?
Too many.
In South Africa, we have, I think it's like, 32 million South Africans have smartphones, not phones, smartphones. So that's a phone that is able to have Android or iOS enabled.
But how many of those would have like biometric scanners and stuff that would enable people
if it's a smartphone in
access.
2023, it most likely has biometrics.
And how many people have stable
let's say you are right. Let's say you are 100% right. Let's say that there's a small percentage of people that
have. It's small. It is big.
Okay, let's argue. Let's argue and say yes. That we are divided. We have a digital divide. So the voting station could then have the
Cell
gadgets,
phones,
where you just go in and you, no ballot paper,
no nothing.
you know, just biometrics, so that we know that if that person has registered using their biometrics and their ID, we know also that you've registered, and it's a click. That technology already exists.
It can be implemented.
It does, yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. There's just something that feels
like she said, it doesn't serve the powers.
It does not serve the powers that be. You're acting like a power that be. You're acting like one of them. 5 minutes to what?
I think he understands. He knows. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I get the arguments you guys are making, and I agree with it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like, I think about the feasibility of all of that being implemented.
Highly feasible.
It would be so much faster. Imagine end of the day you're finding out the results. Imagine midnight you already know who president is.
Yeah, because we can see it in real time.
In real time.
You can even use ChatGPT to do it for us.
Yeah, for real.
Listen, if the intent is there to fix the problems of the world and head towards a much smoother, less corrupt world, then that can be implemented and we can get there faster. The biggest obstacles for humans in terms of evolving to becoming better things is the human itself.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that being, I mean, we can go deep with that.
We can go
deep. And this just started with you guys asking me that silly question.
Wait, I also wanted to add that with what you were explaining was just, I think you put it perfectly, explaining like decentralization, right? Which is awesome. But I still feel like having whales kind of makes the whole thing a bit difficult, because if like 5 people can dictate what happens to the whole thing, then it kind of strips away.
Look, we have seen, we've experienced it. We've experienced scenarios where Bitcoin dips and picks up based on a tweet, or because a tweet by a certain person will then influence whether people are trading or buying Bitcoin. But you cannot dissolve the amount of Bitcoin that has already been mined out there and the amount of money that has already been spent. Those are the market caps. So I speak about a market cap in my training session just to explain how Bitcoin stays in the system and how Bitcoin retains its value in the system. So that is all related to market cap, which is a direct relationship between the number of Bitcoin that has already been minted versus the value of Bitcoin at that time. So that tells you the
like
market
trade
cap.
value.
Yeah, the trade value at any given time. So I think at this current stage, it's sitting at around 43 billion and counting. So those are different subjects on a different date, which we can catch when we are speaking Learn Crypto education on our platforms. But without taking too much time, I really would like you two gentlemen to take us through these fancy gadgets that look like a moon sunglasses. If I was going to the moon, it looks like I would wear something like this. First of all, what inspired this design? Do you know? Why does it look like if you're wearing it, you could be hit by a bus and not know that a bus is approaching you? Please take us through this.
Okay, we could start off. Let's start off with this one, the white one in the middle.
Right.
So that's the Oculus Quest or Meta Quest 2. So if you see up front, it has 4 cameras. And so there's 4 cameras. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So these are cameras, right?
Yeah.
So those switch on and off. So that you could see the plane around you when you're in VR.
Right.
So once you put it on, you are immersed in that environment there. So what you'll be met with is a gray screen with the cameras. Once they're switching on, it'll ask you to create a boundary.
Right.
So a boundary is your play area.
Right.
Basically, yeah.
Your play area, so you make sure that you have nothing in your play area so that you can be able to move freely. And that's its form factor. So that's why it looks like something that is, I don't know, something out of a movie.
You're right.
Yeah.
So tell me, so the information that you consume from here is derived from where?
So you could create it. So it's either you create it or you download it. So creating it is you use either game engines. So you could use something like Unity or Unreal Engine to create this, or other technologies like Mozilla Hubs and so forth, which also allow VR development. and then you could use to consume content. You could use things like not TikTok, YouTube, Netflix, and then it also has its own app browser where you could download and stuff like that.
Can I just add?
Yes.
This is an Android device.
It's Android, yeah.
So it's an Android device.
It's an Android
Yes.
device.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it's still just a device that, pretty much like a cell phone. You know the way you use a cell phone?
Yeah.
So imagine that, but now on a VR headset with immersive capabilities. So you can pretty much do most things that you can do on a phone. You can browse the internet on there. You could play games on there. You could use productivity apps on there. There's just so much that you can do, and a lot of that stuff is offered on their app store. They have multiple apps depending on like what you need, what you're trying to do, and also there's other open source apps, right, that you can access on platforms like Steam.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can also install
Why would I want to be
APKs.
immersed in apps? Why would I want to be on? Because it sounds to me like it sounds like a nice gadget on a Web 1 space.
No.
So it depends on use cases that you have, right? Like, what do you need right now? What are you trying to do? What good is this thing gonna serve you, right? And sometimes you find that there's certain things that maybe you just bought this out of interest of like gaming, right? You're like a gamer, you're like, okay, let me switch from traditional PlayStation and like try something new. And you buy this only to find that now it serves like a whole different purpose to you, maybe on your productivity.
Right.
But now instead of using your traditionally the way you use your computer, you now put on like the MetaQuest Pro, and then you use the MetaQuest Pro to navigate your PC instead
Do
of...
you have another gadget that you're going to work with? Is that like a controller?
Oh yeah, it does have controllers,
Right.
but you could. It also kind of like the capabilities right now is that it can pair up with your like device, like a laptop or something like that, and then you
So
have.
if I
like
want to type
virtual
something on my laptop?
So because it has cameras, it will allow you to see the actual physical space, and you'll be able to type and have virtual.
So I need
screens.
controllers to be able to type.
No, your
Okay.
actual hands, because it
Right.
has hand tracking.
Right. So you could. Oh, brilliant. So you can. But
Or
then
you could use the controller.
Or you could use the controller.
Oh, you can
type.
use- right.
It's up to you. Yeah.
And then in terms of site and the safety for one site, what is the required or the prerequisite time for being immersed within the hardware?
I think there's a lot of testing in regards to that. There isn't necessarily a recommended amount of time. They recommend you spend as much time in VR so that you can get like comfortable with it. So at first you get like motion sickness when you're not used to it, because your brain is trying to figure out how to move. Let's say, for example, the mechanics in VR, you can't walk around.
I saw one of our techs, TKJ, he was using it and then it suddenly looked like he was falling.
Yeah.
So the brain does this thing, right?
Yeah.
Where when you're seeing stuff in motion, it tricks your brain to
wanting to
move. Like your
Right.
brain will just assume what it automatically knows. So if you are moving, you have motion in the thing, your body will feel compelled to
Yes.
move
Right.
because your brain is wired like that. So now it takes a minute for a lot of people to adjust to being in motion virtually, but
Yes.
staying still physically. Like sometimes some people get sick because of that. Because
Motion
Motion sickness, that makes a lot of sense.
and yeah, it takes quite a bit of adjustment, but once you play around with it, like once or twice, the brain is also smart, so it pretty much adjusts to
Lovely.
that. To do it.
So I have a burning question. You guys are the distributors of the headsets. How's that going for you? How's the business going?
It's going quite well. The reason behind it becoming distributors is that we saw a niche in South Africa.
Right.
So I think in 2018, when we started distributing these or bringing them into the country, we saw that there was
2018,
Yes,
that's this
yeah.
year.
They
Who
saw
are
that-
your customers?
primarily businesses, but now we're moving more to like B2C, like normal out of the door customers.
And what's your
Africans.
average cost? What's your entry level cost for a headset? And
11,999, so 12,000 rand. The price for a mid-range cell phone.
for this entry level?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A mid-range cell phone. It's not entry level in the sense of what it can do.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But an entry level device is that one.
And this one? This is
44,000.
Yeah.
44,000.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very heavy.
And then that's the older brother of the white one there.
Yeah, it's more recent. It dropped last year.
Yeah, last year.
Dropped last year, and yeah, it's pretty much like it's a pro. Like
it's a pro.
This
is
a MetaQuest 2, and then this is a MetaQuest Pro. So it's like a pro version.
As a woman, I'm thinking of my hairstyle here. I'm thinking like my look, and then the makeup over all of the stuff, and then like.
So here's the best part, right?
Yeah.
So with Oculus Quest, it comes with. It comes with this cushion over here, which is right?
Yes.
So you can wear this if you have makeup, and if it's stained, if your makeup stains this, you can just wipe it off.
Right.
You should be good. So there are like accessories and stuff that cater for different things, different situations. So yeah, your makeup and hair should be good.
Yeah.
You can also adjust the strap, however, to accommodate your hair. Alternatively, there's other types of strap-ons that you can get depending on like your needs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we must admit it's not the most glamorous gadget.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's the thing.
But no, it's actually, this is very better. Like the fact that you can use this as a standalone device that doesn't need to be powered constantly for it to work.
Yes.
It just shows how much like
tech is gone.
Yeah, the tech has just evolved.
And
over
it's
the past
reliant
couple
on
of
load
years.
shedding. Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. So these are all standalone. You plug, they're all battery powered. You charge it
Okay,
once.
brilliant. And they have good battery life. Would you say?
Yes.
Nice one.
So it, somewhat good.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're
you're using it for,
and how long you're doing.
So you guys, you're saying this pays the bills?
Yeah.
How is it paying the bill?
This one is more
No, what I'm
expensive,
asking is,
though.
if you're a distributor, whatever it is that you're distributing, the return, the margins got to make sense so that you know that it's paying the bills, right?
Sense.
So if you're comfortable that it's paying the bills, that's a good thing. But my question is around innovation and how we as a continent can start to create our own products like this. When you look at the components that go into it, do you think that it's something that maybe if an investor was interested and said, there's an African version of it and you guys could create one?
Yeah, sure. I think it's something I think African continent could do, but I think we are some years away. I think one of the biggest issues when it comes to these headsets isn't necessarily the processing power.
Right.
It's the displays, and that's where the biggest funding goes. So
into the displays.
Yeah, the displays, like the lenses.
Right.
So most of the money that is spent on development is around getting the best type of lenses, because the displays are right next to your eyes. It needs to be good quality, shouldn't burn your eyes, you should be able to be there for hours, and it shouldn't affect you. Also, it being here, the pixels need to be on good quality and so forth.
So somebody is already obviously creating these lenses, which means that they would be your supplier.
So
but
you're
the
looking
rest
at
of the thing you would be able to put
your
together.
Samsungs.
Yeah.
Like companies that deal with maybe displays, like Samsung, LGs,
Yes.
Skyworth. Those are the ones who would be the ones who would have to partner up with, because they would probably have the technologies or or the know-how to create those displays.
It's still worth figuring out how to build one for yourself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know?
I think if someone is like more tech inclined and has access or a bit of funding, then they can like just find ways to navigate building like their own unit.
I'm trying to figure out the direction for somebody that is at school, trying to figure out if I want to build gadgets like that, what sort of things should I study? Electronics, chemical engineering, so on and so on. So these are kind of things that as part of emerging tech, we're always trying to then route back to the schools to say, if you are going to participate in the technology of the future, these are the kind of things that you need to be studying so that you can actually be a creator. So one of the big problems that we have in the continent is being that the consumer, they call us fast adopters, but what are we doing? We're adopting things that we didn't create. So what would you encourage somebody that is in school, and what would you say to them?
I think we need to start with industry. Let's start creating our industries. I think Africa doesn't have its own industries. Like we don't have our own TV maker, like a TV that's probably made in Africa.
Yeah.
Or we do have cell phones, but not a wide variety. We need to get to a point where we have 15 different South African phones or African-made cell phones.
And there's various reasons for that. I mean, many people that manufacture say that the cost to manufacture, because of our labor laws in the country, our labor laws are quite stringent. We'd rather go to countries that perhaps use far cheaper labor. And then our skill sets, many people don't study certain areas like your electronics and your engineering and so on. Therefore, we don't have adequate skills. So I think it's things that we can start thinking through, and perhaps even if you send people out and they start creating, I would worry, we haven't even spoke about ChatGPT and Lambda and all of these fancy things that we can go into, because there you need to input content that is African content, so that you're not left behind, so that you're not as a culture totally left behind. But that rests with the young people. The 50s and the 60-year-olds are not sitting with gadgets and figuring out how to input content into these fancy gadgets. So there's sort of got to be an investment into the youngster to say, go bring in your skill, go and get your skills. When you get your skills, then we can invest or stand behind you to build things. And to build things, you're going to have to break things, build things, break things, build things. So you need an investor that is fairly patient, would you say?
I think going back to like what you had initially asked, right? I definitely think South Africans have capability to create this. We have the skill set, we have like basically the capability in every sense.
Right.
It's just mass production becomes a problem when you're making tech like this, and making sure that you have like the best of the best components also becomes a problem when your funding is not up to par, especially with emerging tech. South Africans aren't typically people that would pour a lot of money into that, because even if you look at things like cell phones, it's kind of hard to have like a cell phone brand that mass produces phones, and then they get adopted by people, and it becomes like an actual thing. It's usually a thing that like just comes up, and you hear that someone made like a really cool like smartphone that competes, and then after 2 years just silent again. So that's where things start getting tricky, and I would think it's funding, definitely not the skill set part.
Well, we can evolve the conversation. We can also take it to build the stuff, or build mock-ups of the stuff, but the stuff must be unique, African unique, because what we do in Africa is that we try to copycat everything of the West. So what is unique so first of all, you are emerging, you don't really know what you're doing. Then you go and copycat something that already exists, that has already been refined.
Is that not trying to compete though?
No, that's not trying to compete. If you're building something that has already been done and you're building a mock-up version of it, nobody's going to buy into it. If you want to be a Drake, and Drake already exists, and everybody's here listening to Drake, nobody's going to be interested in you. But if you go and you build a Amapiano hit, and Amapiano has never been heard before, you're going to make it big. So look at the missing gaps. Look at where the gaps are within the technology. So for example, in AI, I strongly believe that African content has not been input there. We're still going to be digesting and being fed the West content. We need to go in there big and hard and say, we are putting in the African content. All the cool things. So if whatever you can put in this thing is African, you're going to sell.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to go and duplicate something that is already refined, you say, okay, there's a Ferrari, I'm going to make another version of a Ferrari, and it does not quite look like the Ferrari. People are going to forget about you quicker than they met you.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky.
But I think that we need to first start by copying.
Of
before
course,
then you can innovate.
You copy the concept and you innovate around the concept, but not try to copy the same thing that's already been refined.
I think that's the thing, is that I think that's where we are as like a continent. We're at the copying stage, and we're moving to the innovative stage right now. You know, they say there's projections that in the next 5 years there's going to be an extra 2,000 millionaires in South Africa, new millionaires. So what do you think those millionaires are going to come from? They're going to come from those ideas that were copied, now they're moving into the innovative stage.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. So I'm going to challenge you guys to go and innovate something that we can go out there and sell and say, here's our product. This is our version. Yeah. And yes, it was inspired by. In fact, in AI, the biggest honorary that is given in AI or in the blockchain technology is the copying of a product that has already been coded in.
You see,
that is, and that is not plagiarism in there. Because what it means is that somebody has put hours in there, and if somebody else can use it, it means that that is an honor. But that's not to say go and take things that are already done and refined and say and sell it off as something that is innovative.
Yeah, that's how you start. You first compete, you see if I match up, and then from matching up, you
but
start
there's uniqueness in
building from
Africa
there.
that can be built into the technologies. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying let's work with the uniqueness that we can build into the technologies that are emerging. Is that fair?
True, 100%. That's true.
Thanks again to Future Makers Innovation Summit that was brought by Telkom in 2022. That is how the three of us got to meet and look at what we are doing as startups. We're in the Learn Crypto space where we're educating about emerging technology and cryptocurrencies at large. And I was in studio today, joined by Umuzwa Bam and Given Mahlangu. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'd love for us to evolve this conversation. There's a lot that we didn't discuss today for the sake of time, but I'm really interested in your NFTs that you've built.
Yeah, sure.
And then we're also going to talk about how we can help each other advance each other's technologies. So I think that we really need to talk about that, because if we collaborate, we're going to go very far. That's one of the things. It's not even innovation. It's something that has been missing for the longest time in Africa. Collaboration is a big thing, and it's going to be the biggest thing that's going to come out of this century right now in Africa. Collaboration in Africa. We come from a history of scarcity. When we have scarcity, we tend to hold things back. We tend to hold information. We tend to not lean in and lean forward on how we can help each other. But right now is the time that we collaborate as a continent and look at how we can advance each other's initiatives, so that we can create a better continent for us and the future of our generations. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. And we look forward to another session where we can evolve this conversation. And all the best for you.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is cryptocurrency? Allow me to please sit down. What is cryptocurrency? It's literally just money. It's digital money. It's a digital asset. So what is our relationship with money? To bridge a poverty divide, you do not give people money. You cannot give people money to eradicate poverty. You need to give people access. Access. Okay? And that's what decentralization does. It allows for access. If you tell me you're poor today, and I gave you $100, even if I gave you $1 million each, it's not going to eradicate your poverty. Because what are you going to do with that money? You're going to either go and buy a fancy car, you're going to go and spend it, you're going to go and buy Louis Vuitton. Money does not bridge the poverty divide. Access does. And that's what information did. It started to tip into bridging that divide of information. What is the only thing that liberates people? Knowledge.